Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally the Nintendo Switch. So last time we have basically did manage to conclude everything for the cyberspace stages. So because of that, we did somehow manage able to tackle through the final two missions with two of those cyberspace stages respectively, which there are, I would say, 4-F and 4-I. So because of that, both of which involves around carrying all these animals into their safe spots, which thank God we don't have to worry about these specific missions ever again, because let me tell you, these are my least favorite missions in the whole game, for me anyway, or even the entire DLC as a matter of fact. So, relatively speaking though, is that today for this video is, potentially speaking though, I do have a convention to make. Originally, I was expecting to try to able to actually taking down all 16 of those tougher variants for certain Guardians for this particular episode, but unfortunately though, it's not happening. Mainly because, well, as you can tell already, it's about the fact that we're about able to face off against with the stronger variants for certain Guardians for sure. But here's the thing about the forms of those specific battles to me anyway. I feel like it's going to be a lot of emphasis on the forms of repetition involved. Like, for instance, they do somehow manage able to bring in not only one, but maybe 3 other variants of the exactly same Guardian types as far as I'm concerned. Well, mind you, it's been about likely or so 5 days ago since I actually have last played this for sure. I mean, relatively speaking, though, it's about the fact that I will try my best if I decide able to take down certain Guardians as far as I'm aware, but not all of them, mind you, because they played exactly the same, aside from the fact that I don't think it's impossible for me to able to actually tackle all 16 of them, because not only they attempt to take even longer, and on top of all that stuff though, these battles are gonna be pretty tough, especially concerning for the fact that the only rewards you do get if you do manage able to take down all of those different types of Guardians as far as I'm concerned, the only rewards you do get are, aside from the fact that you're still able to actually access to the portal gear, which, imagine if you basically run out of the forms of those portal gears in order to able to open up certain cyberspace stages from time to time, then this might be a good challenge for you anyway, aside from the fact that the defense is actually a lot more higher. And on top of that, the strength is also incredibly high as well, so you have to think about the forms of that specific strategy in order to able to deal with certain Guardian encounters, which, as a result, no matter what though, unlike the forms of how it does it on the base game, I have no problems with them, especially concerning for the fact that they're pretty self-explanatory if you basically know what you're doing. But for this particular kind of challenge like this, my lord, it does very reminds me of the forms of that particular tougher battles from not only from Kingdom Hearts 1 for secret bosses, but also with the forms of the data boss fights from the likes of the forms of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and same applies with the forms of Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC as well for the Organization 13's data battles, which as a result, yeah, this is basically what I was expecting for that particular equivalence to something else. So, anyways, a few things I want to explain for this point today is, potentially speaking though, is that today's date of course is the 12th of December today, in some cases in 2023 today. Only 13 more days to go until Christmas is approaching, so because of that, so I'm basically pumped for it, and on top of that, we still a little bit more of a festive season at this point, especially concerning for the fact that we always tend to love celebrating Christmas all of a sudden, especially concerning for the fact that at this point that both me and Tiana are basically working on certain lists for the sake of the forms of the Christmas food we're going to be having, and on top of that, watch certain Christmas episodes from The Simpsons and everything else to that respect. So because of that, still we got a whole lot of days to go at this point, like I said before, but even then, no, that's all I can really say about that, I guess. So, and also, there's not much else I can probably explain about the forms of today's video, I'm afraid, apart from the fact that for one thing in mind, is that Silver the Hedgehog has already mentioned about quite a number of things during the course of Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link so far, mainly because of the forms of how the fact that recently we've already just gotten ourselves the actual Game of the Year awards which I suppose I don't feel like trying to explain about that again, because obviously Silver has basically got it all covered for the sake of the forms of trying to explain any of that stuff. So because of that, instead of that, I think it's probably able to actually get ourselves a perfect opportunity that we can able to discuss upon something else. Likely, for instance, is about the fact that, oh, he's not dead. Okay. Alright, is he dead now? Yes, he is dead. So because of that, yeah, as I said before, you only get one of those rewards, which is of course the actual portal gear, which we've already discussed that earlier. And since no matter what though, we've wasted so many rings up to this point, so hopefully we'll try to get our rings back if we decide able to take care of the forms of the next tougher Guardian. So because of that, the only Guardians I could probably think about did give me any sort of trouble in this mode, which appears to be buddy forms of, let's just say, Silverhammer, and especially noticeable for Tank Plus, and especially noticeable with the forms of Spider Plus as well. And I think that's as far as I can think about it. So because of that, yeah, that's what I can really think about that. So anyway, so let's get into the forms of that particular discussion. I'd like to point things out. It's potentially speaking though, is that I found it very fascinating about the fact that it looks like that since then, no matter what though, we've already got ourselves the previous Wigged Cups, or to be more specifically, one of those collaboration events for the likes of Tetris 99. Likely, for instance, is about the fact that ever since about a couple of days ago, that we've already got ourselves WarioWare Move It, which appears to be buddy forms of the 37th Maximus Cup, as far as I'm concerned, in Tetris 99 theme. And despite the fact that I still haven't got myself Tetris 99, mainly because no matter what though, I basically give up playing Tetris all of a sudden, mainly because I'm not exactly a huge expert at it. And not only that though, it's about the fact that ever since like there's going to be some more Nintendo Switch games coming out for it, so that means I still need able to try to save it up for the likes of the upcoming, you know, Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake, and Princess Peach Showtime, and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, so we can finally get a chance to do Luigi's Mansion 2 as a Let's Play anyway. And on top of that, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, and potentially speaking though, maybe the upcoming Switch 2, if depending on the forms of certain consumers is actually going to be involved around that specific matter. So, but then again, we shall see what happens in due time. So, anyway though, so aside from that, I believe during the course of the forms of this Thursday coming up, not only we can able to expect to see, not only for the likes of the forms of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC 2, which appears to be buddy forms of, let's just say an Indigo disc, and on top of that, there's also going to be the 38th Maximus Cup for the likes of the forms of Tetris 99, and no matter what though, this time around it appears to be buddy forms of a theme based off from Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So because of that, yeah, I'm very curious to see how that's gonna look like, although I'm pretty sure no matter what though, it's gonna be pretty exciting to see that particular, you know, Super Mario Bros. Wonder theme is on the actual screen. So either way though, that's what I can really think about it. Oh, in addition to that, we've only just got about 3 more days to go until Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nuggets, will be releasing on Netflix. So because of that, yeah, I'm sure it'll be pretty exciting for most film fans out there. We'll be expected able to actually see that film for the first time. Well, it wasn't until when it gets to the point until on Friday, of course. So, as been expected with most films came out during the course of on Fridays for certain countries, or certain regions for that matter. So either way though, let's go ahead and take on the forms of Master Ninja Plus. And hopefully though, we can probably do this as a successful attempt, because last time, my god, that was embarrassing. Especially concerning for the fact that, well, suffice to say, luckily though, you only need able to do those, well, let's just say for this matter though, is that these Guardian tougher battles are pretty much optional, because obviously no matter what though, unlike the forms of how it does it on the base game, that at the very least you can only take care of them at least once. Well, it doesn't really matter what specific island you go into, because there's actually that completionist meter is actually involved during the course of the forms of the base game at the very least, so that's that. But aside from that, all that stuff though, for the Final Horizon DLC update, as I said before, it's just for optional sake, and it's just all about bragging rights if you do manage able to take care of the forms of those specific Guardians. So, now I believe when it gets to the point until on Starfall, Plus. Basically, though, those Guardians do respawn from time to time, much like in the forms of how it does on the base game, so yeah, no differences from there. So because of that, oh yeah, I should also mention about this as well, is potentially speaking of, is about the fact that, well, like I said before, I don't think it's possible for me to able to actually go ahead and tackle through every single one of those Guardians in this mode, mainly because I have managed able to try them on the Switch version, and I essentially get myself butt kicked. And it doesn't really help about the fact that I couldn't seem to able to figure out the specific attack patterns, so as a result, I literally did try. And it's just about the fact, no matter what though, it's just for bragging rights, especially concerning for the fact that, well, you know what I'm saying. So, anyways though, there's also another thing I want to classify about this as well, is that there was actually a game called The Lord of the Rings Gollum, that recently came out ever since in March this year, during the course of it on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox One, and Xbox Series X/S, alongside with PC versions as well. Apparently though, for what I found out is that that game is considered to be as one of the worst games ever made during the course of in 2023 by far. So potentially speaking though, it did somehow suffer the forms of some very negative reviews, ranging from, let's just say, Metacritic reviews, did somehow manage to able to receive, for the PC version, it receives 38 out of 100, and on the PlayStation 5 version, 34 out of 100, and Xbox Series X/S was potentially on 43%, and out of 100 anyway. Now, compared to the forms of OpenCritic, they somehow managed able to give the game 4%, so yeah, that seems rather low. And that also applies with the forms of some other reviewers as well, ranging from Digital Trends, Eurogamer, Game Informer, GameSpot, Games Radar Plus, Hardcore Gamer, IGN, PC Gamer US, PC Games N, Push Square, and also Shack News and The Guardian, so they somehow received some very negative reviews, apart from two, which there are PC Gamer US and, especially notable with Shack News. So they did somehow manage to receive the actual game some mixed reviews for those two reviews combined. Oh, and on top of that, that particular game alone also suffers the forms of some low sales, so because of that, that's not a good sign, especially considering for the fact that on a technical standpoint, it does look very promising, but ultimately though, I've decided to not get the game after all, mainly because it did somehow receive very poorly in terms of reviews and all that stuff, so that's essentially I'm going to give that game a pass. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that might be some consumption, so oh, there's also another thing I want to address something about this as well, is potentially speaking though, we actually got ourselves our first glimpse of the forms of our Shadow's first look on the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And thank God, the release date has not been delayed, so it's still going to be able to be released until the 20th of December next year. So because of that, still I'm very excited for that, especially we've only just got about next year for right now. Well, until likely or so for a couple of days and a year later, as a matter of fact, that we can definitely finally get a chance to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So I'm hoping I'm probably not going to choose Mufasa the Lion King live-action movie, just because it just feels really underwhelming, for what I've heard anyway. So, but anyway though, and for what I've looked at the forms of Shadow's shoes from the Sonic, the third Sonic movie, it almost looks very accurate as well, especially concerning for the fact that I found it's very cool that whenever I pay attention to the forms of that particular clipboard, that every time when you do say like lights, camera, action and stuff like that, apparently though, they've shown us the actual brief logo for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And as a result, it's like a massive callback from Sonic Adventure 2 logo, like, you know, with the forms that Sonic's head part is on the top, and then Shadow's headbutt was actually in the forms of in the bottom. So because of that, yeah, it feels very similar to the forms of in that particular familiar logo from Sonic Adventure 2. So yeah, it'll just match the exactly same tone as Sonic Adventure 2 once that particular film decides to come out at the very least. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. So, oh, and another thing too, is that apparently though, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is officially in the works, and it will start production until 2024. So, yeah, after the events of what the first film did first came out, they immediately decided able to jump right into the actual production for the second entry in the series. So, yeah, it feels like a very similar situation as the forms of the entire games themselves, which is specifically by the forms of Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, 3, 4, and all the other sequels I could possibly think about on top of my head, but it's just about the fact no matter what though, I'm very curious to know. So, and I'm not exactly sure when that's going to be released, but I'm sure we're able to find out until specifically in 2024 and beyond. So, oh, and another thing too is about the fact that we actually got ourselves our first glimpse of the forms of the entire gameplay footage of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, specifically the closed beta version, and for what I've looked at it, it looks really good, especially considering for the fact that, thank God, this is a massive improvement over the likes of how it does it from the likes of Union Cross in my opinion. I mean, sure, the art style looks a bit interesting to say the least while looking back on Union Cross, but I will say is that the Missing Link definitely feels like a massive step up from the likes of the forms of not only for its visual presentation, but it's also about the fact that the control, for what I've heard anyway, is tremendously improved. Like, you still need to be able to try to utilize the touchscreen controls every so often, but ultimately speaking though, I'm very glad that we're able to actually have a controller support, and especially noticeable, it really helps thanks to the forms of the Bluetooth support, so at least for what I've heard that anyway. And in addition to that though, is about the fact that it looks like, apparently though, that we're about to be able to have ourselves a jump button for the first time. So because of that, well, in a mobile game anyway, ever since in, well, it's hard to explain really, because I know for a fact it's been a very long while since I actually mentioned something related to Kingdom Hearts, up until now anyway though, for able to actually comparing the forms of the actual Organization 13's data battles from the likes of Kingdom Hearts 2, Final Mix, and Kingdom Hearts 3, Remind DLC. Even though it's a shame about the fact that the actual Remind DLC is still locked out behind the forms of digital shops, rather than just coming with the forms of the bundle of the physical game itself with Kingdom Hearts 3. So it's a bit of a bummer though, honestly, especially concerning, imagine if the forms of the PS4 store is about to close, and especially noticeable if the Xbox One store is also closing down in the future. That also means about the fact that you will miss out on the forms of the Remind DLC features. So, yeah, kind of thing about it is that, to me though, the Final Horizon DLC update for Sonic Frontiers is basically like the equivalent to the Remind DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3. But, except no matter what though, it's about the fact that you can able to play as multitude of playable characters, and you're still able to actually get a chance to experience the exactly same island as before, whilst compared to the forms of how it does it on Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC, you will still able to actually access to Keyblade Graveyard, although I'm pretty sure you need to able to beat the game once in order to able to actually make it happen or something, so, although I may be wrong, but either way though, that's saying something I suppose. So, oh yeah, there's some unfortunate news I would like to point things out, is potentially speaking though, do you guys even remember this very cool collaboration between both Sonic the Hedgehog and Monster Hunter Rise, including with the Sunbreak DLC with it? Unfortunately though, is that it wasn't until when it gets to the point until on the 21st of January next year in 2024, basically those particular collaboration contents will be no longer available to download until the 21st of January in 2024. So as a result, no matter what though, that luckily those contents are for free. So basically what this means is that you won't be able to actually access to not only the Sonic the Hedgehog stuff, which is potentially speaking of with certain Sonic costumes, and especially noticeable with any other things I could probably think about at the top of my head. So it's kind of unfortunate, and also say applies with Universal Studios Japan kind of outfits or something like that. Although mind you, I haven't exactly touched upon Monster Hunter Rise, because obviously I'm still pretty much got to save up something related to Mario themed, and especially noticeable with Zelda themed, and some Sonic stuff every once in a while. In fact, I'm not exactly sure what is exactly the final Sonic game to be released on the Nintendo Switch, because it does seem, no matter what though, the Switch is still continuing its massive support, especially concerning that was potentially a good thing, especially concerning for the fact that after all, that the Switch is still doing very, very well. And maybe potentially speaking though, thanks to the forms of Black Fridays, but I'm sure enough that we'll find out some more details about the forms of that particular Switch sales numbers until February next year, until we're able to actually find out the specific game titles did somehow manage to get updated for, you know what I'm saying, with the forms of that particular Switch sales update, as far as I'm concerned. So, but yeah, not much else to say about that, I guess. Oh yeah, let's talk about the forms of this unexpected version update that somehow showed up. All thanks to the forms of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and that's as a result no matter what though. Before I get into that though, did you know it's been about a year ago since when Wave 3 has first came out for the Booster Course Pass, and my goodness, that was actually, without a doubt, to me anyway, is one of the best waves in the entire Booster Course Pass in my opinion, because obviously the track selection is really good. Well, apart from the little graphical issues during the course of in Rock Mountain, or Alpine Pass for those of you who lived in European countries, well, that's just mainly because they ported over from Mario Kart Tour basically. So because of that, and apart from those aside things though, is that while looking back on the third wave for the likes of in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, it still looks very impressive despite what the missing characters features. So, but aside from all that stuff though, at least the cool thing about the forms of the third wave for the actual Booster Course Pass is that it also includes customized item selection if you decide able to go into versus races and what have you. So yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Anyways, let's get to the point with the forms of the version 3.0.1. Specifically, we now on to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe patch update, which is specifically version 3.0.1. And as a result, they did somehow address quite a number of things. First of all, they fixed an issue where the player was unable to acquire a strong item even though they did not take an item box by stopping or going in reverse during a race, or taking an item countless times from an item box in same location when the communication is unstable during an online match. And they also fixed an issue where the glider did not open when getting on the glide ramp that is past the suspension bridge on the, or in rather, the Tour Vancouver Velocity. And they also fixed an issue where the player might fall into the crevice in a cliff and not be able to move in during the course of in Tour Rome Avatame. So yeah, I guess it's that. And they also fixed an issue where the player would be floating in midair after driving out of the course without being carrying back in by Lakitu in GCN DK Mountain. And also they fixed an issue where the player would sometimes not be able to move when riding on the statues in Wii Daisy Circuit. And also fixed an issue where actions and expressions did not match for some characters that were added in the Booster Course Pass. And finally, they fixed an issue where a Mii's head would get extremely large or small when playing in the highlight reel. So yeah, there's some minor touches there here and there, but aside from all that stuff though, at the very least they did manage to able to address certain issues, you know? So yeah, I guess it's that. Oh, and then also another thing I want to classify for mentioning about this as well, well, better late than never I suppose, is that happy 15th anniversary of the show's release of The Penguins of Madagascar. And while looking back on it though, it's actually really good in my opinion, especially concerning for the fact that despite the actual animation quality is actually in low budget, but aside from all that stuff though, I enjoy every single aspect in the forms of the Penguins of Madagascar TV series, especially concerning for the fact that I'm pretty sure that particular series came out during the course of after Madagascar Escape to Africa. So because of that though, yeah, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. After 15 years since when that particular TV series has first came out, what do you guys think about the films of while looking back on the Penguins of Madagascar? Because I would like to hear your thoughts, especially concerning for the fact that despite the fact that, well, every now and then, I was potentially trying to able to find more of these episodes on TV, but every nowadays they now moved on to Paramount Plus, so because of that, which that could be also applies for Kung Fu Panda, Legends of Awesomeness as well. So because of that, yeah, I can totally see why no matter what though is about the fact that it looks like that Paramount Plus is actually going to get a nice little sort of treatment as well. So yeah, that's what I can really think about it. So anyway, there's also another thing I want to address something about this as well. Is potentially speaking though, is that when it comes to the forms of the Mario Kart tracks they somehow managed able to add it in for, you know, returning tracks since then, that as it turns out, whenever I looked at the comparison with the forms of Mario Kart Tour, then the likes of the forms of how it does it on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so to speak, is that potentially speaking though, is that whenever I looked upon Mario Kart Tour, it does seem able to actually have themselves quite a lot of those retro courses returning, so likely for the fact that obviously that, well obviously we've already got all of those tour themed courses during the course of Mario Kart Tour after all, and in addition to that though, is that what I've noticed is about the fact that the amount of tracks do return from each and every single series in hand, is that what I've noticed is that in Mario Kart Tour, it does manage able to contain let's just say in Super Mario Kart, they did somehow contain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I would say that Mario Kart Tour does contain 15 of those, let's just say, Super Mario Kart tracks. Because I know for a fact that for one thing, they did somehow missing out on, let's say, Bowser Castle 1 and Bowser Castle 2, Mario Circuit 4, and especially noticeable with Koopa Beach 1, and even Ghost Valley 3, at least as far as I'm concerned. So because of that, yeah, somehow that Mario Kart Tour receives 15 Super Mario Kart tracks out of 20, so I guess that's that. And as far as Mario Kart 64 is concerned, Mario Kart Tour did somehow manage able to receive, let's just say, 8 out of 16 courses for the likes of Mario Kart 64 tracks returning. So, there are only quite a few exceptions for the specific tracks lineup for Mario Kart Tour counterparts for Mario Kart 64 courses, which there are, well, let's just say, I don't know actually. There was Moo Moo Farm, and especially noticeable with Toad's Turnpike, and there was also the forms of Wario Stadium, which I'm still surprised that Mario Kart, the latest Mario Kart games, never bring that track back. And there's also Sherbet Land, and also Bowser's Castle, DK's Jungle Parkway, and Benchy Boardwalk, and finally Rainbow Road. So, at the very least, I don't think it's possible we can able to get more Rainbow Roads anytime soon. So maybe the next Mario Kart game I could imagine, but we shall see. Anyway, in terms of Mario Kart Super Circuit, at least if you do want to count the Battle Course anyway, which is essentially Battle Course 1, so at the very least about the fact no matter what though, there are 3 missing Battle Courses in mind for Battle Courses as far as I'm concerned that was based off from. Now in terms of racetracks as far as I'm concerned, I believe Mario Kart Tour receives, let's just see, 5, let's just say 14 out of 20 tracks from the likes of Mario Kart Super Circuit tracks returning from Mario Kart Tour. And I know there are quite a few missing ones from time to time, which there are, I would say Shy Guy Beach, as well as the forms of Mario Circuit, Cheese Land, and there's also, I would say, oh yeah, Ribbon Road, and also with Broken Pier, and Rainbow Road. And I think that's as far as I can usually say about that. So, almost to a full lineup for that particular part's worth noting for, but at least that's something, I suppose. And meanwhile, for Mario Kart's Double Dash, aside from the fact that we've got Kooky Land, which appears to be buddy forms of the battle course anyway. So as a result, Mario Kart Tour selection, when it comes to the forms of Mario Kart's Double Dash selections of courses, Mario Kart Tour receives about, let's just say, 7 courses out of 16, so it's a bit lesser compared to the forms of the other selections from the past entries or something like that. So yeah, as a result, the only missing tracks there are for Mario Kart Tour anyway for GCN courses, which there are Luigi Circuit, Peach Beach, Dry Desert, and especially noticeable with Mario Circuit, and there's also Sherbet Land, GCN counterparts, Mushroom City, and as well as the forms of Wario Colosseum, Bowser's Castle, and of course Rainbow Road. So, and much like the forms of how it does it on Wario Stadium from Mario Kart 64, I've no idea why that Nintendo refuses to able to bring back Mushroom City, which I have no idea why they somehow refuse to do that. Maybe potentially for its next Mario Kart game at some point, but again, we shall see what happens in due time. So, now as far as Mario Kart DS, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to Mario Kart Tour courses, Mario Kart Tour receives about a grand total of, well, aside from the fact that there is that Twilight House, which appears to be yet another battle course, and I think it's similar to the forms of how it does it on Mario Kart Double Dash, if I recall correctly. They did somehow contain 7 Mario Kart DS courses as far as I'm concerned in Mario Kart Tour, and yeah, that's essentially what I was going to be thinking about. The only couple of missing of them, which there are Figure 8 Circuit, Yoshi Falls, Cheep Beach, and especially noticeable with the forms of Desert Hills, Delfino Square, and especially noticeable with Tick-Tock Clock, and Wario Stadium, DS Counterparts, and also Bowser Castle, and of course Rainbow Road. So, yeah, that's about it basically. Now, as far as Mario Kart Wii is concerned for Mario Kart Tour variant, basically though, they did somehow contain for about let's just say 9 of those specific courses, which as a result, they did somehow contain, actually, yeah, it's something feels like 9 courses as far as I'm concerned, and those are Coconut Mall, and Daisy Circuit, and DK Summons, Dry Ruins, and Cooper Cape, Maple Tree Way, Moonview Highway, Mushroom Gorge, and of course Rainbow Road. The only few tracks missing from that particular variant, which there are, let's just say Luigi Circuit, Moo Meadows, and especially noticeable with Grumble Volcano, and especially noticeable with Mario Circuit, Toad Factory, and also Wario's Gold Mine. And I think that's as far as I can think about it, if I have to be quite honest here. Oh, and Bowser's Castle as well, so either way, yeah, that's about it basically. And finally, most notably, is Mario Kart 7, where they've almost got every single Mario Kart 7 courses as far as I'm concerned. I mean, sure, there are some missing ones here and there, like for instance, there was, if I recall correctly on top of my head, despite it's been a very long while since I actually played Mario Kart 7, which there are Woohoo Island, Loop, and especially noticeable with Melody Motorway or Music Park if you lived in the US countries, and there's also the forms of, if I'm assuming correctly, it was Woohoo Mountain Loop, and finally DK Jungle. So yeah, I think that's as far as I can usually decide able to think about it. So as a result, yeah, pretty nice little selection as far as I'm aware, from the likes of Mario Kart Tour tracks do manage to able to brought back quite a lot of retro tracks from time to time. So yeah, that's essentially how I was going to be thinking about it anyway. So now, compared to the forms of how it does it on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe counterpart, that we do know right from the start though, from the final results anyway, that we did somehow receive 4 Super Mario Kart tracks returning from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and as a result we've got 4 out of 20, so I think we've already on about that already. So as a result, the only few missing tracks there are from the likes of Super Mario Kart returning from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which there are Mario Circuit 1, Donut Plains 1, and especially noticeable with Ghost Valley 1, if I recall. Despite the fact that I don't remember that much of Super Mario Kart compared to the future games in the series. But either way, Mario Circuit 1, Donut Plains 1, and Ghost Valley 1, and Bowser's Castle 1, and Mario Circuit 2, and especially noticeable with, well, for whatever reason, they only decided able to include the third variant for certain race courses from time to time. Like, I know for the fact that for one thing, they're also missing out on Koopa Beach 1 and Koopa Beach 2, and Vanilla Lake 1 and Vanilla Lake 2, and on top of that, there's also Bowser Castle 2, and on top of that, there was also the forms of Donut Plains 2, and also Ghost Valley 2 and Ghost Valley 3, and that's quite a lot of things I can probably think about, but either way, yeah, it's a very small selection for the Super Mario Kart themed courses for some time now. I mean, relatively speaking, though, it's about the fact that at the very least we actually got, you know, 4 race courses based off from Super Mario Kart, of course, with the actual overly, completely cool graphical differences from time to time. So, anyways, and as far as Mario Kart 64 is concerned, for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, they only received 6 N64 courses out of 16, so relatively speaking though, they did somehow missing out on not only Luigi Raceway, but also with Moo Moo Farm, and especially noticeable for Koopa Troopa Beach, and also Frappy Snowland, Mario Raceway, and especially noticeable with Wario Stadium, of course, Sherbet Land for the N64 counterpart, and Bowser's Castle, and especially noticeable with, let's just say, DK's Jungle Parkway, and Benchy Boardwalk. So, yeah, that's the only things I can think about it. Now, compared to Mario Kart Super Circuit from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, they did somehow receive 8 racetracks out of 20. So because of that, the only missing tracks are Peach Circuit, Shy Guy Beach, and Bowser Castle 1, if I'm assuming so anyway. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that must have been. So, and also say applies with the forms of Bowser Castle 2, and Luigi Circuit, Cheep Cheep Island, and also with the forms of, if I could assure that, it will be, how do you recall it? Oh yeah, Yoshi Desert, Bowser Castle 3, and Lakeside Park, and Broken Pier, Bowser Castle 4, and GBA Rainbow Road. So, not a bad selection. And on top of that, Mario Kart Double Dash from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe receives 7 courses, so as a result, yeah, the only missing tracks are Luigi Circuit, Peach Beach, as well as the forms of Mushroom Bridge, Mario Circuit, and also Mushroom City, and yes, and also with Wario Coliseum, Dino Jungle, Bowser's Castle, and of course Rainbow Road. Now, just like in Mario Kart Double Dash, I think anyway, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe variant for Mario Kart DS selections of courses receives also 7 courses as well. And the only few missing, which there are, let's just say, Figure 8 Circuit, Yoshi Falls, Luigi's Mansion, Desert Hills, Delfino Square, and also DK Pass, Airship Fortress, man, I really missed that, and also Bowser Castle, and of course Rainbow Road. And we already know about the fact that Mario Kart Wii receives 11 out of 16 courses returning from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which I think is very impressive. And obviously we already know the missing tracks there are, which is specifically Luigi Circuit, and as well as Toad's Factory, Mario Circuit, and as well as the forms of Dry Ruins, and of course Bowser's Castle. And finally, for Mario Kart 7, or actually kind of think about it, there's actually more to it than that. I believe Mario Kart 7 does manage able to bring back 8 courses over towards in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which there are, well, we already know the actual selection, of course, but there are some we actually missing out, which there are Daisy Hills, and Cheep Cheep Lagoon, or Cheep Cheep Cape, Shy Guy's Bazaar, Woohoo Island Loop, and Mario Circuit, and also with the forms of Wario Shipwreck, or Wario's Golem, I think it's what it says anyway, and as well as Wahoo Mountain Loop, and of course Bowser's Castle. So yeah, that's about it basically. And for Mario Kart Tour, we've almost received every single courses from Mario Kart Tour, with only one exception, and that is, of course, Piranha Plant Pipeline, which, fundamentally though, mainly because that track is very similar to the forms of how it does it on Mario Kart 7 course, which appears to be Piranha Plant Slide or Piranha Plant Pipeway for the European versions or something. So because of that, yeah, very understandably so. So yeah, that's as far as I can usually try and describe about it. So anyways though, let's talk about the forms of that particular point that, if you couldn't tell already, I'm actually starting to be able to face up against with those Ghost Guardians, if you couldn't tell already. And frankly, if you decide to use Tails onto this particular battles like these, holy macaroni, these are going to be pretty much an easy as pie, or should I say this will be a piece of cake, assuming of course if you use Tails, because obviously sometimes I will admit though, is that the camera angle just feels a bit kind of finicky at points, but when you get the hang of it though, it's actually not too shabby for the most part. So, especially concerning for the fact that although you will lose rings from time to time, thanks to the forms of one of his attacks anyway, but honestly, I feel like that the Ghost Guardian is actually one of the easiest Guardians to take down during the course of this particular DLC to me, mainly because if you try to use Tails, specifically with his flight, basically though you can able to actually dish out as many of their health as much as you can, or should I say you can able to actually breezily go for this no problem as Tails. I could imagine if I was trying to do it with Knuckles or Amy to make things a little bit more too similar, but as a result of that particular matter though, I highly doubt if I was trying to play as Sonic on this particular fights like these, that will make the entire experience a lot harder than I thought it was. So, but either way, we already taken down, so because of that though, I think what I'm gonna do is that I'm actually gonna be going after the last Guardian I'm about to be focused on for right now. So, anyway, and I would have liked able to explain something else for that matter though, but honestly, that's as far as I can usually say about that. I mean, after all, we are almost finished up everything for Sonic Frontiers, as a matter of fact, that I'm just seriously looking forward to able to actually finish this game up before we move on to the next Sonic Let's Play in a future time. So because of that, well, I'm sure it'll be possible that we can able to actually do some Sonic Superstars eventually, and maybe some other miscellaneous stuff from time to time as well, because my god, I think my palms of my hand is actually going to get a lot more achy most of the time, especially concerning after dealing with so many combat moments. I mean, relatively speaking, it's about the fact that I just really want to get this game finished, you know? But, I digress. So, anyways, if I recall correctly, we need to make our way up here, but here's the thing. I was attempted to try and able to actually find a normal method to able to actually get up there, but I need to max out my rings count, so just in case I can able to ride onto that particular Tornado mech, so we can able to actually just to fly straight up, and we can able to actually deal with that just that. So, oh yeah, I should also mention about the last thing I want to classify for mentioning about this is that whenever I looked upon the forms of the list of certain micro games for WarioWare games, it seems to be more specifically though, that it looks like that we're able to actually realize that there's quite a lot of micro games from time to time for one of those games in particular. Like, I already know for one particular thing for Matador, is that between both WarioWare Inc. Minigame Mania or Mega Micro Games on the GBA and Mega Party Games, both somehow received 213 micro games, and compared to WarioWare Twisted, it does somehow receives 223 micro games, and meanwhile for WarioWare Touched, there's a grand total of 192, while one of them is actually returning, and the other two were Japanese only, and the other one is internationally only, stands for the English version and the American version as far as I'm concerned. And meanwhile for WarioWare Smooth Moves only receives 205 micro games, and on top of that, WarioWare Snapped only received 20 micro games. That is a very short amount. And on top of that, WarioWare DIY that did somehow manage to able to receive 116 micro games, while 2 of them returning, and 2 from the Japanese only version, and 2 from international only versions as far as I'm concerned. And there's also the point where the fact that I think it's probably best for me to able to actually save that particular conversation until at some point on this Thursday coming up. I mean, relatively speaking, that's all I can really say about that particular matter for the sake of time. So, But I digress. So yeah, let's just go ahead and fly straight towards the upper statue we can able to destroy. And thankfully, you don't have to necessarily try to worry about just trying to go for this particular labyrinth-y maze. So you can just potentially try to able to go ahead and use Tails and use the actual fly ability, so that way you can able to exponentially, we can able to actually go ahead and deal with him no problem. So, which, trust me, what I'm saying is, I highly recommend you able to do that. If you're basically almost running out of the Fonzo's portal gears, if you haven't exactly access to every single of those, you know what I'm saying, the cyberspace stages, but either way, there goes the third Ghost Guardian. So as a result, he's not that much of a threat to me though, so as a result, we're pretty much used to that ever since on the base game. So either way though, I suppose, relatively speaking though, I think we should probably end things off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers for the PS4 and all that stuff. Is that, well, suffice to say, despite I was expecting to be able to go after every single Guardians, but like I said before, it's not happening. So instead, we're about to end off the entire game, even with the entire free DLC as well. So because of that, yeah, I'll see you guys until on Thursday. Later, fellas.